When I say the word castle milk, what do you think of?
Kind of cows grazing in this beautiful green Arcadia. Probably in Suffolk or something.
When I say the word castle milk, what do you think of?
Woods, trees, bluebells.
It reminds me of the kind of gang life and the murders. Common.
A reasonably rough area, but for an area that's very rough, it's got lots of nice grassy bits.
I think of a housing scheme, obviously, yeah. I know it's been refurbished, and they're pulling a lot of it down and rebuilding a lot of it.
Right, when I say the word castle milk, what do you think of?
Castles and milk.
Well, we just have this kind of reputation of being a really rough area. I haven't been there, but just because of the reputation.
When you say castle milk, I think that the people are the salt of the earth, and I think that they've not been given a fair deal. They were given homes without the amenities.
Well, the only thing I can think of is my mother and I were having a conversation about the merits of various types of lager, and she asked me if I'd tried castle milk Forex.
People everywhere are clamouring for houses. 94,000 names comprise the waiting list in Glasgow alone. Of these, 40,000 are the names of people who are actually houseless. To provide more and more new houses in the shortest possible time is the aim of the municipal representatives at George Square. Chaos left by the Second World War and severe shortages of labour and material are gradually being overcome.
Post-World War II in Glasgow, there were some extremely poor housing conditions, especially in the centre of Glasgow, and high levels of overcrowding, and the idea was to lower the overcrowding and improve the living standards of those people in public rented housing.
Crumbling buildings that make only the crudest provision for hygiene. For too long, daily life has been a fight against overcrowding, sickness, disease, and death.
The original planning of the state was done on the basis of emergency. The pressure to provide new houses was enormous.
And down, too, comes close on a century of domestic history. These old stones, so rudely and suddenly tumbled, have sheltered generations of Glaswegians in good times and bad. They have rung with the laughter of children and groaned with the loneliness of the aged. Now they must go.
A lot of the houses from which people were relocated were in private ownership, private landlords. The powers weren't available at that time to upgrade these properties. And unfortunately, a lot of good properties were lost in the 50s and 60s.
Homes like those in Moss Park were built in the first years of peace to meet the needs of people who had grown tired of tenement life. It was an age of ideals. A victorious nation owed its tired warriors a new life. Precious acres of arable and pasture land disappeared under streets and pavements. The supply of new houses increased, but the demand seemed insatiable. It became evident that Glasgow must stop spreading and devouring. The time had come to tear up that no tenements resolution of 1934 and start building flats with up-to-date amenities, communal gardens and greens.
Sites of new permanent houses will be seen from the map, which is, after all, a fascinating thing when it shows house-hungry people where houses are being built. The Pollock area alone will form a community unit of over 8,500 houses, with a total population of 34,000 people, a settlement as big as many sizable towns in Scotland.
A lot of the planning which took place, I understand, took place in the 1940s.
As to how this new building should be done and where it should be done. The forces that be, and I think political forces were at play, led to the building of the peripheral estates in Glasgow.
Castlemilk, a lovely piece of country with many natural amenities, will accommodate 9,000 houses. Toryglen, smaller, nevertheless provides...
But the important thing is that they were kept in Glasgow. So they're on the outskirts of the city, but at the same time, they were definitely still part of Glasgow.
Sites having been secured, the knowledge and skill of a large technical staff is concentrated on the vast project. Architects must plan, then engineers and surveyors must translate plans into reality.
First houses in Castlemilk town. Glasgow Dean of Guild Court granted linings to the value of $4,500,000 to the Corporation of Glasgow to enable a start to be made on the new Castlemilk housing scheme. 2,461 ordinary type houses and 720 houses built by the Crosswell system. They are mostly 3 and 4 storey tenements of 3 and 4 apartments. They are the first linings granted for the new scheme, which when completed will comprise of 8,305 houses. There will also be 13 churches, 8 shopping centres, libraries, a cinema and a fire station.
Under the blades of the bulldozers, the rolling farmlands of Renfrewshire and Lanarkshire have been planed down to cradle the new communities of Castlemilk, Easterhouse and many others. Here, under the hands of the builders, the walls of a new Glasgow are rising, and soon there will be another pilgrimage of covered vans bringing escapees from the dark tenement areas of the inner city to the sunlight and healthy living of outer Glasgow.
I moved from Army Kitchen in Bridgeton. I had 7 children. I got a 5 o'clock.
Came here in 1956. We were part of what was called the Big Flip for the Gorbals. Welcome to the back end open. Tipper, Moon Pond, 6
Well,
wheels.
a lot of our old neighbours had flitted up beside us because their places was coming down.
I moved from Probmill. I didn't know this end at all. It was foreign to me.
My wife and myself, we lived at that time with my mother-in-law, a sister as well, and when we applied for a bigger house, we all thought we would like to keep together. When we applied up here, it was fun.
It's an exciting moment when they open the front door for the first time and see the roomy entrance hall and the bright interior.
Oh, I don't know. When I came here, they were still building the place. You know, a lot of the places here didn't exist when I came here.
At first there was no roads or pavements or anything. No shops or nothing, no schools or anything.
Of that time that we came here, it was like Siberia, this place, really.
Since 1945, 62,000 families have turned their backs on the old tenement life of the past and now live in happy communities, escapees from the conditions of last century.
I thought it was great because there were bathrooms and things that we never had.
Moved into a 3 apartment. It seemed big, plenty of room there.
It was a fight to see who was going to get into the bath first. We'd never seen a bath before. It was all boys got through into a sink.
I thought it was a lovely end of the town when I first seen it.
Oh, they're beautiful, you know, at first, and Market Drive was beautiful. It was a oval, bit of grass in the centre. You know, and there was 2 or 3 policemen stayed there at a time and quite friendly.
Because this is not just a building project, but the culmination of almost half a century of war against dirt, disease and human degradation. These houses, with their modern facilities, are the victorious battlefields of that war.
They belted up the houses, first-class houses, we can't complain about that. But there was nothing for to save the women. Long hurls back to the old grocers. Everything, there was nothing economics here. Everything had to be on a bus and away. Wains with prams and then coming back with the wains with the prams and a ton of messages. Pure stupidity in the whole lot of it.
Well, see, there was absolutely nothing, no shops, dependent vans, which bled you dry, price-wise.
They made a blunder at the beginning when they didn't put the shops in. They were like a shopping centre.
People with young families, it was terrible for them, because we're living within one wage, plus their husband's travelling expenses, plus children to clothe, and they depended on the vans. But they could run up messages for Monday to end of the week and pay it then when they got their wages. But they were still paying a lot more than they should have. Took advantage of the situation.
This was to be my first parish somewhere in Scotland, you see, and I wanted very much to work in a new area where it was fresh, everything was new. I didn't, because I had ideas about what I thought the church should be. We started with a workman's bothy as a kind of canteen place just at the junction of Machrie Drive, I think, or Machrie Road and Castlemilk Drive. Just at the corner there was a wee bit, and there was this hut. It was the only thing I could see that was around. There was nothing else. There were no schools even yet. And you know, that little place very soon became very full because there were a tremendous number of people there, and a tremendous number of children, and pretty well every family had several kids, and so the place was absolutely hotching.
It happened yesterday on the banks of an artificial lake near Castlemilk Children's Home in Glasgow. The toddlers wandered from their homes down to the lake and watched older boys play cowboys and Indians. As police and firemen raced...
There wasn't even any railings nor nothing put around that. You tell me the common sense of these people, of the big IQ idea, the authoritativeness of an architect, to know that was going to be gut up with wains, and they couldn't have railed a whole lot of that.
August the 11th, 1959. Today Castlemilk is regarded by many as the heir apparent to Gorbals for the title of Glasgow's leading trouble sport. This, however, is a superficial and unfair judgment. The first sight of Castlemilk is a surprise. There are trim gardens and attractive windows. Children are clean, well-dressed and friendly. Adults helpful and pleasant.
It's a vast difference to me, you know, all you're in the city and noise 24 hours a day, like. And when you come up here, it was just a different environment altogether, which you did get used to.
There are indications that the high cost of travel has its benefits. The expense makes family outings almost impossible, so that more and more time and energy are being directed towards the home. Family life, in almost every case, flourishes.
There's nowhere to go. There were too many picture halls closed down. The only one I had was in Rutherglen, so there was bus fares in there.
Castlemilk, in common with all the schemes, has a real lack of adequate recreational facilities. The tenants feel strongly about this situation, and there is a general belief that if the authorities take no action, the men would undertake the building of some kind of playground. It is a quiet residential area which reflects in miniature the improving standards of the nation as a whole, and is a complete success both for the tenants who have integrated to produce such an area and for the authorities who have finally learned from their mistakes.
It used to be when you said, you know, like years ago, that if I was doing England or something like that, you know, where'd you say, Glasgow? Then you used to get, all right. But now they say, oh yes, whereabouts in Glasgow? And you say, Castlemilk, all right. You know, and they're frightened to look at you after that. They kind of, you know, just turn their head away.
We were standing outside the boat one day waiting in the queue, me and a couple of my pals, and there was actually quite a lot of lasses for Castlemilk there. And a few lasses came up to us and says, if there's anybody for Castlemilk turns up at night, will you help us do them? I just said aye. No bother.
Well, just look at you, so one of the crowd. Because you stay there, you're one of the mob, aren't you? One of the crowd. Aye, that's it.
That's my son.
I bet it is for you. He'll come and lift you.
So there was a lot of good dreams, good hopes, and an excitement. So that the schools were very important too. You know what went on in the schools.
Healthy bodies, to make good citizens, must be tenanted by active and well-informed minds. Striking this necessary balance is a problem which Glasgow is facing and solving with bright new schools. These well-designed buildings, with their attractive surroundings and up-to-date equipment, are making education a pleasant preparation for the responsibilities of adult life.
I think I enjoyed the kind of, if you might put it, the honeymoon experience. The early sort of days where there was this tremendous newness and excitement. Everything was vibrant and growing up and round.
It was really a good scheme for everybody that came from Bridgeton, the south side, the other side of the water, the Carlton, all different areas moved up here, Kinnan Park and all these different places. And it was a real good community.
Many of them will be housed in huge